Have you ever had one of those nightmares in which you start to engage with someone you know, when suddenly their whole demeanor is unexpectedly, unexplainably aggressive? You're under attack, or you're accused of something you didn't do, or some other conflict arises. You're totally blindsided and confused. You don't understand what just happened, but you know for sure that something is very wrong. There must be some unidentified motivation behind the behavior, something hovering just outside of your perception, eerily and frustratingly evasive. You don't know why this is happening or how to change the situation, only that it is going to end badly. HBR Talk with Hannah Wallen. I was in high school, and this was not a nightmare, but unfortunately, very real. This guy and I were close, but not dating. It was the kind of non-relationship, the status of which people had to be reminded of occasionally when they'd mistakenly put a superfluous suffix on friend in reference to one of us. We'd been not dating for more than a year, when he suddenly got standoffish, then told me he didn't want anything to do with me anymore. He gave me no reason, but that shouldn't have been a big deal. We were not dating, and since we were not dating, this certainly couldn't have been a breakup. Needless to say, I was very sad about it and couldn't for the life of me explain why. And I was equally unable to explain why I was elated when I got a note from him in my locker one Friday after school, saying he missed me and wanted to talk. I immediately went looking for him, found him on his way to his bus home, and greeted him, still holding the note in my hand. As soon as he saw me heading his way, he yelled at me.
"What the hell do you want?"
Confused, I held up the note and asked, "Wait, didn't you write this?" He answered, angrily and a bit aggressively,
"Yeah, I wrote it."
Then turned away from me and boarded the bus. If I had a normal ego, I probably would have just decided he was a jerk, gotten angry, thrown the note away, and that would have been that. Instead, I spent the whole weekend puzzled over the contradiction between the words he wrote and the way he acted. What the hell was that all about? If I'd been a normal teen girl in such a state of confusion, I'd have gotten a friend of mine to ask one of his friends exactly that question and waited for an answer. But I'm not, and I didn't. I decided one of us must have misunderstood the other in passing, and I planned to ask him Monday morning when he wasn't rushing to avoid missing the bus. I had the whole weekend to get myself all worked up to have a heart attack the moment I got near his locker, so of course I was calm and measured in my approach. The moment I got near him, he began yelling at me again, and again I was confused. In the turmoil, I made the mistake of ignoring his body language, and as he stepped back and put his hands up by his chest, I stepped right into the empty space, shoving the note at him and asking, "But what about this?" If I'd been older and wiser, I wouldn't have done that. But I was 17, worked up beyond reason and naive as hell, so I didn't even see it coming. I was struggling not to go over the rail and down the stairwell, watching his shoulders hit the wall when I caught up to the fact that he'd pushed me and I'd reflexively shoved back. Worse, everyone in the hall had seen him give me a good hard shove. Guys I'd grown up with in my neighborhood, guys I'd played tag with, baked cookies for, guys who were friends with my brother. I couldn't even treat the situation as a one-time mistake. In my neighborhood, nobody would care that I'd given right back as good as I got. That shove meant he had hit me. I couldn't even be friends with him again, and my brother was going to have to fight him because you just can't hit a guy's sister. One of my friends was already ushering me away to class before I had the chance to make things any worse. Later on, she and I talked together to try and puzzle out why that had all happened, only to realize that I'd lost the note, so it wasn't even there for us to analyze. It's only because I dropped it that I was ever able to identify the catalyst, because the person who found the note recognized her handwriting, traced his way back through recent events, and then explained it all to me. Miss Catalyst was a big gal. Not really fat, but strong. Rather than going out for any sport, she just got herself a reputation for fighting like a bulldog if you happen to make her mad. She was a grade behind me, didn't hang out with nerds, and didn't take any of the kinds of electives I took. Apart from passing each other in the hallway, we rarely even saw each other. She was about as far off my radar as you could get. I didn't have any reason in the world to pay attention to her. It didn't occur to me that she'd have any reason in the world to pay attention to me either. Why should she? I was nobody. Not popular, not a star in the sports I was in, not in charge of anything, not even in her way, and not interested in engaging in any kind of conflict. I might as well have been invisible. Except I wasn't. For whatever reason, Miss Catalyst had zeroed in on me and decided just a friend and I needed to be messed with. She had spread rumors, had gotten her friends to make fun of him for associating with such a nerd, and had even talked a girl close to her into flirting with him. She floated a rumor that one of the tougher guys we all knew was going to beat him up for his involvement with me. It was the perfect formula for him to develop a sudden aversion to me. After he stopped talking to me, she wrote the note and put it into my locker. Then, having lit both fuses, she stepped back to watch the sparks fly. And fly they did. A week after the incident, my brother and just a friend had a fight in the school hallway and both ended up in trouble with the vice principal. For 2 weeks after that, just a friend came to school with his arm in a sling. During that time, I heard that Miss Catalyst had been bragging around school about how she caused the whole thing. She seemed pleased with how it had turned out, but never gave any reason why she'd wanted to cause all of that trouble. She didn't even appear to have had any beef with any of us. If her word could be taken for it, she had done all of that elaborate manipulation and interference with our lives just for laughs, like we weren't even people to her, only puppets for her own personal show. One of the creepiest gals I've ever met, and I barely knew her. Relational aggression isn't always that active. Often it just involves the creation of a single snag in the fabric of one's social environment. A bully deals with a rival by telling another gal, "Hey, I saw her talking to your boyfriend," or floats a rumor that a guy who slighted her actually groped her instead. She doesn't have to do anything else. Other people's natural human tendencies will do the rest. Pick the right boyfriend to use as a story prop and his girl will confront both him and the perceived rival. The rumor mill will ruin the reputation of the guy who ignored her. Anything her targets do to defend themselves will be viewed as aggression, and her hands, several dominoes back from the current state of things, will appear totally clean. Other times, this behavior can be highly involved, with the aggressor acting as a queen bee, directing organized exclusion, rumor-mongering, and ridicule or other verbal abuse. As Dita M. Olicker, Ph.D., describes in her Psychology Today article, Bullying in the Female World, the Hidden Aggression Behind the Innocent Smile, the queen bee's friends often comply out of fear of being the next target. The aggressor bears little risk of being presumed responsible for the fallout from her bullying. After all, she didn't do anything to anyone. Her target just seems to suddenly be very, very unpopular. Did you ever wonder how a woman can bully a man to death and then turn around and play victim of his suicide? Why the phenomenon of false allegations could be so commonly accepted that people just seem accustomed to it? Why women's advocates don't expect to be seen as passive-aggressive when they label women's attitudes toward men toxic masculinity? Why the same ideologues can expect social credit for laws they're proud they've influenced, while simultaneously arguing that laws they're embarrassed to have influenced are the patriarchy's fault, because men voted for them. It's because women, in general, are used to getting away with this kind of social manipulation. It's their most effective weapon. It can even be deadly. And unlike some weapons, it's totally out of control.